Hello, and welcome to this edition of Secure Networks, the Endace Packet Forensic Files, with your host, Michael Morris. This episode's very special guest and friend is Steve Fink, CTO, CISO of Secure Yeti, and architect of Black Hat NOC, RSA Conference SOC, and Cisco Live SOC. Fink, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, thank you, Michael. So I've been in the security industry now for 26 years this month. So my very first contract was pen testing the FBI, and I started that contract in August of 1999. So it's been a long journey to get here, obviously time, just doing all the things, right? We used to do security just for fun. It was something that we loved to do, we were obsessed with, and then one day we woke up and somebody said, "Here, let me give you a paycheck to do what you love to do." Okay, sure, sounds great.
I love it. No, and I love working with you as I've got to know you over the past year. Let's start with Fink. You're widely known across the industry, all these major conferences. Why are you known as Fink and not Steve?
So it's been that way my whole life. So it started back in Cub Scouts. Cub Scouts in the 70s, I think it was just a four-letter word that could be said. One time a Scoutmaster actually got after one of the other Boy Scouts for saying that word. And I was like, it's my name. Then after I graduated, I went to military service, and so it was just Fink there as well, and it's just continued on.
Well, thank you for your service, as we certainly appreciate all you've done. Let's start with kind of why I wanted to talk to you. I'm super excited to talk to you. As mentioned, you're a renowned architect on what it takes to build a world-class SOC. So kind of want to start with the basics. What are some of the foundational architectural principles you consider essential when designing a next generation SOC?
So obviously you need security and layers, right? So basically, I'd love to start with the packets. The packets are the most important part. Making sure that we have that final, everything we can know about that session, what happened, what transpired. But then we take all of that and we create logs, contextual data. Context is king. If you don't know the context of your network, it doesn't matter what type of network, whether it's what we do at the conferences, whether it's an enterprise network, even just a small to medium enterprise. If you don't have the context and you don't have that CMDB that's constantly updated so that you know what those assets are, then it's super hard for analysts to actually have a valid investigation and create actual response plan because they don't know what it is. It's going to be a whole different ballgame if you are investigating against the CFO's laptop versus the menu kiosk down in the cafeteria, right? If it's down in the cafeteria, we may just leave it, let it go, and watch what the threat actors are doing, because if they're doing it there, they're obviously trying to do it somewhere else. And so we need to make sure that we have the IOCs and that we create alerts based on that. So obviously you want the logs, right? You have some type of a SIM. Obviously, with what I do for both RSA Conference, Black Hat, Cisco Live, I use different SIMs for different purposes. When I find that we put a day one analyst into the SOC, that day one analyst has a little bit better experience and can become more useful more quickly utilizing a product like Cisco XDR. When you look at the more senior analysts, they really love Palo Alto's XIM because they get a lot more intricate details out of it. So looking at your analysts and the analyst experience level and how experienced they are at investigations and doing things should help you choose which SIM to actually utilize. And then also you want to layer on, it's changed over the years from just security orchestration automation to the term XDR, where everybody's trying to integrate with everything. But if your XDR doesn't integrate with everything and your entire stack, then you might want to rethink either replacing that tool or replacing your orchestration automation engine, which is also known as XDR.
Right. No, and it's real eye-opening to work with you as part of the Black Hat, because there were so many different vendors in that environment. One of the things also interesting about that event is you built the whole NOC itself, the network. So how do you approach scalability and modularity in the NOC and SOC design to really accommodate future growth and some of those evolving threats?
Well, unfortunately, sometimes we learn over the years as we bite ourselves, right? Years back, I used to only have 1 gig link to IDF closet that then served the NOC itself, and 1 gig link to the NOC itself. Well, unfortunately, we DOSed ourselves and took our own link down. And so, you learn from that. So it's like, okay, I need 2 1 gig links to uplink that switch, and then 1 gig to myself. And then as technology has evolved and the venues modified and changed, COVID, they took a big opportunity to upgrade their infrastructure. Now I can do 10 gig copper or 10 gig fiber right to the NOC. So I did have 10 gig fiber right to the NOC. And then we had the 2 20 gig outbound links. Outbound links are all running BGP. We have redundancy in the edge switches. We have redundancy in the firewalls. We have redundancies throughout the entire infrastructure, all the way to the IDFs. The only place we don't have redundancy is when you look at from the IDF switch to the actual port on the wall. So should that go out and go bad, we're only losing a small fraction of our capacity and our coverage. So we can shift that around until that's repaired. And it has happened. We've lost APs and lost links. During this last show, we had one that kept dropping to only linking up at 100 megabits. We went out there, reworked the wiring in the venue itself, and we were able to keep it linked at gigabit full duplex after that. We always try to have redundancy everywhere. That redundancy comes in different forms. When we originally started testing our high availability failover with the firewalls this year at US, we had about a 30-second delay before that flopped over. That delay was a combination of lack of settings on the carrier side and lack of settings on our side. We were able to work with the carrier prior to the show even starting, and took about a 24-hour change window to get that setting in there. But once we got it in, it was so fast we only lost 1 packet.
Wow. No, it was amazing to see such a diverse set of teams come together with everything from access points to core networking, routing and switching, to the firewall vendors, to the NDR vendors, the XDR vendors, the SIM vendors. It was just an amazing integration of components and best in breed technology. So it was really exciting to be a part of. One thing I wanted to highlight on, can you describe how you've evolved or changed to integrate or include cloud native technologies or hybrid environments into your SOC and network architectures? And what challenges did you face?
So let's start with the challenges. So the biggest challenge is always the integrity of the data and the destruction of the data at the end of the show. So we actually didn't do any cloud native stuff for years and years and years. And our previous packet technology, SIM technology, were all 100% on-prem. And so it's evolved mostly in the last, I would say, 2 years, evolved to embracing a little more cloud and a little more cloud technologies. We do have a data destruction policy. As you're aware, each of the partners has the responsibility to destroy that data. It cannot be utilized for non-black hat things, right?
Right.
You can't data mine it. None of that's possible. So myself, Bart, and Grifter have kind of really like forced the partners to work together, because it's not a natural thing for a bunch of these partners, right? They're competitors, everything.
Yeah.
But at Black Hat, we make sure, well, and we do this at RSA Conference and Cisco Live too. Um, Everyone in that room is a specialist at something. And if you just simply look over the shoulder of the person next to you, talk to them, have a conversation, which you've experienced this now several times, the innovation that comes out of that collaboration goes into the product.
Right.
And there aren't a lot of other opportunities for these vendors to work together, even though they're competitors, right? And I really feel like in an actual enterprise network, there's not a lot of opportunity for the enterprise to force all of their vendors into a room for 10 days and make them play nice together, right?
Right.
And so it's a super unique opportunity. And the public, the general public, gets the benefit of that, because all of that innovation goes back and becomes part of the product, just like your product has evolved since our first conversation.
Yeah, it has. No, it was cool to see, arch enemies like Palo and Cisco working hand in hand and making their products work together and integrate and simple workflows of data. Unfortunately for us, we happen to be partners with everybody that was in your Black Hat SOC, so that was a great fit for us. But it is great for the industry as well, as you described. So let me hit on one thing you started with, that you kind of start with the packets. What role does packet data and centralized logging and centralization of some of that data really play in your SOC design? And how do you ensure efficient data ingestion and retrieval, right? Because we've talked about a data lake becoming a data swamp, right? If you don't have a quick way to access it and things like that. So what are your thoughts on that, and from a core foundation?
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing is scalability, right? You have to know what your ingest is going to be. You have to know what the index performances are going to be. Scaling quickly is one of the things that you have to be able to do. You have to be able to provision more, add more. It has to be modular, where you can add additional, not necessarily on the fly, but pretty close to on the fly. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make, in my opinion, is that they try to keep everything. I feel like that mindset is a little bit flawed, because if you're looking in the past too far, then you can miss stuff that's happening today. And so with my SOC analysts, the only time I let them look outside of a 48-hour window is when they found something in the 48-hour window and they're going back in time to get those artifacts. Or you have a long weekend like the one that's coming up, you have a 4-day weekend or something like that, then you may need to extend that time to 72 hours or adjust accordingly. But you always want to keep them in the now, watching the real-time stuff and not digging into something that happened 10 days ago, because that data could already be gone, and it's going to be gone before they get to it. And so every morning, my SOC analysts, I make sure that they're looking in that window, so that they're looking at the current threats. If it takes them to the past, that's okay. They can go back and investigate and find that, but they always need to start in the present.
No, makes perfect sense. And obviously the show environments are a little bit different than corporate networks, but keeping the focus and the intensity on the here and now is key. And a lot of people, we find, don't have the tools or the solutions that can go back much farther anyway, which is one way we can kind of help. So again, looking at a kind of a broader, how do you architect SOC to support real-time threat detection and response across the geographically distributed global infrastructures, right? A single show is obviously pretty well self-contained, but I know your experience can do it in some of the biggest environments of the world. So, what are your thoughts on the global addressing the global challenges?
Yeah, with every technology, you have to have the ability to keep that investigation either a local or go across the entire enterprise. Obviously, going across the entire enterprise with any tool, it doesn't matter what that tool is, you've got to have enough horsepower to power that index, because quite often you end up with indexes of indexes of indexes, right?
Right.
And so that top level index should probably be the least used in daily operations,
Mm-hmm.
and keep those investigations local, primarily based on the context. The context being, we're going to investigate and look at all of finance today, or we're going to investigate and we're going to look at all of engineering today, or those type things. And if you keep the view of that down and only follow the nuggets when they leave that, you have a much better chance of finding the threats and the threat actors outside of your regular alerting, anything like that. When you have alerts, they need to be finely tuned so that you don't get analyst alert fatigue. It's a major thing. Eventually, they just stop paying attention if you have too many alerts going on. So making sure that your platform, whatever it is, logs, packets, endpoint, whatever, is tuned for your environment to avoid a lot of false positives and a lot of analyst fatigue from alerts.
Right. No, that's a great point. One of the things I thought was incredibly cool about some of these experiences is you mentioned the innovations going on at the beginning of having analysts who are specialized in their area, like the Palo folks in XIM, or some of the folks on the firewalls, specifically some of the Cisco firewall experts, some of the NDR experts from Corelight, having them work investigations together, following the breadcrumbs, shall we say, right? I thought was really intriguing too, because everybody has a different view of what the issue might be, and having them work collaboratively across their purview, shall we say, was really unique experience too. And I think that kind of comes back to the follow the sun process. You've got to be able to do that on a geographic basis as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Fink, let's talk about strategies you use to ensure. You mentioned it at the beginning about redundancy, but strategies you use to ensure high availability, redundancy, disaster recovery, right? And I've talked to many CISOs, fortunately, in this role, around cybersecurity is really around designing resilience, is the key word I've heard often. What's your approach to that area?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that refer to something that's called chaos theory. You should be able to pull any one component out, and the whole thing shouldn't descend into chaos, essentially, right? So ensuring that you've built that resilience into it. Obviously, with modern day ransomwares and everything, you have to have really dedicated and good backups, even for your cloud infrastructure. Because if you lose the cloud infrastructure, it's going to propagate through the rest of your ecosystem if you don't have proper controls and gates in place. So ensuring that the backups are there, the backups are tested. I was recently on site with a customer having a chat with them, and one part of their organization believed that they were restoring their backups every week. And the people responsible for the restoration of the backups were like, no, we do them every morning. We can't lose 24 hours of data, let alone 7 days of data. We test them every morning. And the other part of the organization was like, oh, well, that's a lot of effort. And they're like, yeah, but it's a lot of money. Imagine if we lost 24 hours worth of data. No. Like, what about 7 days, 10 days?
Right.
What does that pain look like for your organization? How long can you actually go without systems? Some of these modern ransomware attacks have taken a year to get to full recovery.
Right.
Others where they have solid backup and recovery systems and a really well thought out and well exercised recovery plan, they can be back up and running in 24 hours. So when you put the effort into it up front, you will find that come back to you later when you actually need it.
No, great point. Great point. The hot button, as you know, in the industry right now is everything has to be AI. If you don't have AI in some of your marketing stuff, people think you got your head in the sand. So, what's some things you can share, or how do you incorporate AI, ML capabilities into your SOC architectures to really enhance threat hunting and anomaly detection and automation? And I know we've got some great use cases with our friends from Cisco. Jessica and Ryan in particular did some amazing work using AI. But what's your thoughts? Or share some of those stories.
Yeah, so in my SOC here at Secure Yeti, I've basically automated everything all the way up to tier 4 essentially is the human. So tier 1, tier 2, malware analysis, CTI, all of that is all fully automated using agentic AI. 100% as much as we can. I think my last metric is I've now at this point got 97%, I'm a little over 97% of the actual workload is now handled by agentic AI.
Okay. That's simple.
Yep. Yeah, it allows you to scale. I can bring on a customer with 20,000 endpoints just as easy as I can bring on a customer with 300 endpoints.
Yeah.
And it's scalable. You just simply add more tier 1 agents. So
Right.
if I have a customer that's that large, I may have 10 tier 1 agents.
Right.
And you have to pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to your mean time to response and your mean time to resolution. And those two metrics should be super low when you're utilizing an agentic AI. And that helps you run 24/7,
Right.
365, and you have responses for that. And it saves time and money.
Yeah. No. Excellent point. And that's what we're trying to help educate our listeners to do is how to be more efficient in their operations because I think I've heard you say before you get the luxury in some of these environments to unlimited budget to build the best SOC that you can, right? So that brings me to
Yeah,
my final
that's
question.
yeah.
Yeah, that brings me to my final question for you. Best practices. Again, you do have the luxury of having kind of this unlimited budget and some of the leading vendors of the world willing to work with you. What's your best practices for integrating third-party tools, whether it's SIMs, SOARs, EDRs, firewall vendors, packet capture vendors, into a cohesive ecosystem? And how do you manage interoperability, data normalization, and heads at the door, right? I know you've got a great phrase, leave your ego at the door for these SOCs. So what's your best practices there?
So I think it comes down to ensuring that the tools you start with have well-documented APIs. When you're doing your research and you're looking at making a purchase, that needs to be your number one question that you ask the vendor. How well documented is your API? And when you get somebody who has a broken API, that means they're probably not even working within themselves efficiently. And so
Sure.
that's going to end up in a lot of manual labor. You're going to have a lot of manual lifting to keep that tool, whatever it is, running.
Right.
When you have a well-documented and highly usable API that's able to do anything, that's the key to automation. So if you pay attention to that up front, then you'll have tremendous success when you go to automate all the things and connect all the things together. Obviously, there's a couple of really, really good AI vendors out there who have developed MCP servers. The MCP server is really what allows the different AIs, the different components to all work together and play together. But you really need a solid platform for that automation, and just make sure that you choose one that has a lot of connections already. It's easier to build the one or two that you need than it is to go and have to build your entire stack.
No, a great point in closing there. And Fink, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know how crazy your schedule is. I don't know how you do it. Thanks for joining and sharing your tremendous
Get up
insights.
early, I stay up late.
Yeah, I know you do. In sharing your insights on how to better secure networks, tune in next time for another edition of the Endace Packet Forensic Files. For more information about Endace's network packet capture platform and our integrations with our Fusion technology partners, please go to endace.com. Fink, thanks again for taking the time. Really appreciate your expertise, and as always, pleasure working with you.
All right. Thank you, sir.